Chapter 18. Thatcher and Galtieri's rousing, far-flung 1982 face-off was a controlled show, one for which the participating nations and other interested countries have been waiting several decades. When the balloon finally went up, impatient arms dealers and senior military figures got what they'd been craving: the green light to let fly, for real, with the latest tested but unproven weapons. Powerful vested interests were served as weapons markets received a massive shot in the arm. How much more proof do we need that merciless, uncaring, unadulterated greed is an ever-present influence? In the discussion, the following points were made. A. It should be possible to apply pressure on Spain to take a less hostile public position, for example at the United Nations, since she was an important trading partner and needed British support for entry into the European community. But the Spanish government's attitude was more moderate in private, and Britain had more important interests at stake in the opening of the Gibraltar frontier, due on the 25th of June, and in the Anglo-Spanish talks scheduled to start simultaneously. B. There was likely to be a parliamentary concern about the supply of arms and military equipment to Argentina from Israel and from South Africa. There was no doubt that a substantial quantity of Israeli military equipment was reaching Argentina through third countries. Both leaders were Machiavellian to the core. He craved and won his brief boost in popularity, but squandered his freedom. She craved and won her war, but squandered the beckoning peace. A peace that was constantly on offer and within her grasp. A peace that would have saved 900+ lives, but won no elections. Thatcher's callous machinations, like the sinking of the Belgrano when a peace deal was waiting on the table, and her subsequent lies, were always geared toward a particular and sordid end: the manipulation of hearts, minds and public opinion on a grand scale, and the renewal and consolidation of her own power, done at any cost. Bloodline Bush and ball-bag Blair arrived much later, as we all know. Two shrunken, trigger-happy war addicts, polished in image but soiled in character, hawking the same twisted ideologies, brash and belligerent. They were practically born to the cause of delivering pain and death on an unimaginable scale. Crucially, the immediate era post 9/11 was a key staging post. Stunted in compassion and with zero humanitarian insight, they could neither meet the challenge nor grasp the opportunity provided by the strategic deck of cards that had been laid before them. This was the perfect time for calm, thoughtful deliberation via international diplomacy. Instead, they tore straight into satisfying their own depraved impulses. Both administrations spurned every chance for mature dialogue, and instead, on a false pretext, lurched into a relentless terror offensive from which the world has yet to emerge. Their many successors have brought nothing to the table, compounding the suffering of millions. In the lead-up to the Iraq War, these callous puppets ignored massive public protest and ploughed on regardless. Pretty soon, as expected, the same dismal bells were heard tolling again. The civilian deaths that resulted were horrendous, and had all been carried out illegally. Eventually, up to 2.4 million Iraqis lay dead. The onus for the dirty work had once again been placed onto low-ranking servicemen who obeyed orders, cranked up the vicious attacks, and risked their own lives bailing out the errant trash at the top. If they survived, once again, they'd be cast to one side, and most likely left to deal with any PTSD or government-inflicted chronic health issues alone and unsupported. Thanks to Bush and Blair, there came a sudden, unforeseen free-fall plunge in the UK's reputation. We could no longer boast fair treatment of captive personnel. The stockpile of assumed good repute was frittered away as a new version of Third World-style barbarity got dragged out into the open. Blighty, in league with Uncle Sam, had been exposed as torturers. Enhanced interrogation techniques was the chilling euphemism for this new and sickening take on human savagery. Such cruel and retrograde steps had now become a cowardly new frontier on how to inflict harm. This Geneva Convention-busting conduct was justified by the assertion, "We need to extract intelligence," which often led to fake confessions, the arrests of innocents, and yet more torture. Iraq blighted, villain knighted, what a travesty. Your bloody majesty. It eventually became clear to everyone that Bush's and Blair's high, polished portfolios concealed low, sordid ambitions. Now, in 2022, we're cautioned that the world has never been more unsafe, more uncertain, and we've never been under such a high level of threat. If true, why is that? Because after 20 years of irrepressible bloodletting, plunder and grinding neo-colonialism with no end in sight, endless wars and a far more dangerous world were always the inevitable outcomes. All sold to us on a ticket of defence. Defence? The UK has 145 military bases in 42 countries. Defence? The UK is involved in 7 separate covert wars around the world.